Welcome back to another episode of the Beyond Jaws podcast. On the podcast today, we are going to be talking to videographer and documentary maker Denise Sotomayor. She is going to be here to talk about her adventures in becoming a videographer for not only just sharks, but just for the ocean in general. She talks a lot about her first project, which is very unique. I don't want to give it away. She talks about a whale shark project, and she talks about a project that she's working with our very own Dr. David Ebert. So we're going to talk about that on today's episode of the Beyond Jaws podcast. Let's start the show. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Beyond Jaws podcast. I'm your co-host, Andrew Lewin, here with my co-host, Dr. David Ebert. Dave, are you ready to talk to Denise?
Absolutely. I've been waiting for this episode for a while, Andrew. We wanted to have it I know. We wanted to coincide this with the first episode of the Searching for Lost Sharks, Extinct or Alive new documentary series that's just premiered on my YouTube channel, and Lost Shark Guy. And I hope you'll go over there and check it out. But yeah, Denise has been doing the filming. This is a Save Our Seas Foundation funded program. And Denise has been doing the filming the last couple of years. We spent the first year, as you'll see, going to Ecuador and Peru to look for Ecuador's lost shark. And I don't want to give away the punchline yet, but it's been an amazing experience. And but Denise has an interesting story to tell. Like I said, it was I kind of having spent some time. I kind of knew it a little bit, but I think a lot of listeners today will find it quite fascinating, her journey. It wasn't like a lot of the people we have on here who just, from the time they're a kid, they know what they're going to do. Denise, it was a journey for her to get to where she is. And I really hope you enjoy it because it was a fascinating story.
It is. And Denise is so great to talk to. We always love talking to her and loved having her on the podcast, and can't wait to have her again. But let's get to the interview, Dave. Here is Denise talking about her adventures in underwater filmography, as well as just telling really great stories and her long projects that she loves so much. So enjoy, and we'll talk to you after. Hey, Denise, welcome to the Beyond Jaws podcast. Are you ready to talk about filming sharks?
Ready.
I love it.
I'm very excited.
Nice.
We want to welcome everybody to another episode of the Beyond Jaws podcast, where we have an outstanding independent journalist, underwater camerawoman, and educator. Denise Sotomayor from Peru has documented scientific expeditions worldwide. She's deeply interested in sharks, artificial reefs, and Antarctica, a continent which she has visited twice to cover Peru's scientific efforts on the continent. Her work has been exhibited in prominent museums throughout Peru. She's created an underwater photography exhibition at 15 meters depth and enjoys exploring informative formats to communicate about the ocean, such as video games, cameraless photography, which I don't know what that is, but I'm sure she'll tell us, and virtual reality. She's led educational exhibits in Minecraft, which currently exhibits at 360-degree screens in several Latin American airports. And I've actually seen this, and it's pretty amazing to see. And she also teaches nature photography at the University Científica del Sur, integrating art and marine conservation. She's worked on projects as a cameraman for national and international NGOs such as WWF and Oceana, and among others. And she's wrote and directed an ebook featuring Peruvian Women for Nature that features 10 Peruvian women CEOs who preserve nature with their businesses. Over the past 2 years, she's been filming a new YouTube documentary series, Searching for Lost Sharks, Extinct or Alive, that I actually wrote and produced with support from the Save Our Seas Foundation. And in that journey, we've been to 5 continents and over a dozen countries searching for and documenting poorly known shark species that may be vanishing before our eyes. And you'll be able to catch that on YouTube. Her currently, as I mentioned, she's a freelance journalist. She did her degree at the University of Lima in journalism. And with that introduction, Denise, welcome to the show.
Hello, Dave. Thank you very much for this introduction. And hello, Andrew. Very happy to be with you.
This has been a long time coming. That's for sure. We've been wanting to have you on the show for quite some time.
Yep. And so, Denise, we ask all of our guests kind of the same question to start off the interview is like, how did you get interested in the field of diving, underwater photography, and sharks?
Well, I think it was a process. My father is a commercial diver, actually. So since
Mm-hmm.
I remember, my father goes to the ocean to work. So his, I don't know, tools for working
Hmm.
always was fins, mask,
Mm-hmm.
wetsuits. Of course, for commercial diving, they have a very big voice to take out the wrecks and all the cool stuff that commercial divers do. And so that's how I get interested in the ocean. I think since the beginning of my life, I was related, everything around me was around the ocean. I grew up also in the north of Peru, in a coastal city, and very actually is a very important for fisheries. So a lot of community around fishing. Uh, and I think that's why when you are too close to something, you don't pay much attention to that. So that's why it take me a little to realize that that's a work that I want to do. I just follow the. I didn't think that that was diving was the thing that I want to do for living, because I didn't know no one in that time, like I don't know, like 15 years or 20 years ago. I didn't have any reference about divers, filmmakers or photographers underwater. So I always associate diving for commercial diving, and for me was fun, but they do very crazy things and dangerous, and they sometimes they don't see what they are doing. Everything is black water. So for me it was not the thing that I dreamed to do. So yeah, so when I finished college, I became a journalist. Always I loved the ocean. uh, but then I started reporting crimes for 3 years, and then I realized I didn't like that, to report that kind of things. So
Right.
I quit
Mm-hmm.
in the newspaper that I was writing, actually. So that's why it was a long process. In the newspaper, I realized I really liked the photography, because when I went as a reporter, I saw the photographers and I was like, ah, this is a cool job. So I want to learn that. So they explained me a lot, and I learned in the field about photojournalism. But then I didn't like how the things that I was reporting.
Mm.
So I quit the newspaper, and I start searching for stories that I really like to tell or to write or to take pictures. So my first story, or long story, because it took me a lot to get to that place, was Antarctica, and was in 2011. And I went to the Minister of Foreign Affairs of my country. And that's a thing that I learned in journalism, that you can call anyone in the government and make an appointment and tell that you have something to say. So I called the Minister of Foreign Affairs. I said I make the appointment, sent a letter, everything, explain why they need a journalist in Antarctica, because it was important to spread the knowledge of science, in polar science in Peru. And no one's know about that in Peru. So they said, okay, nobody in journalism wants to do that. So okay, was not that easy. Of course, took me like 1 year and a lot of meetings, and because I was very young. But at the end, I went and I did a good job, and I did some exhibition in Metropolitan Museum in Lima, the Navy Museum, so became a kind of popular job or good results. So I said, okay, so this is the thing that I want to do. I don't want to do quick stories. Like in journalism, I write 2 or 3 stories a day for
Right.
crimes, or so I want to take 1 year or 2 years or 16 years, I don't care, to one story. I like the very long process. I like to meet my characters, or understand the problem, so then I can understand where is the best way, or to see it in a video game, or in YouTube, or in a screen in the airport. With that, I start paying attention to another story, and in the north of Peru, I hear underwater a painter that he paints and sell here his canvas on the beach. He said, "I want to paint underwater," and I was, "What? How you are gonna do that?" So he told me, "Well, I'm doing all this practice in like a fishing pool. How do you say, like these things for fishes in your house?"
Yeah.
So he did a big one for his canvas and pull the salt water. So he started doing all the process for the painting itself, how it's gonna get in the canvas and don't go in the water. And so I hear that story, and I said, "This is the story I want to tell." And so for that story, I have to be underwater too. So that's why I said, okay, when I was 15, I did my first PADI dive master, no, PADI open water, the first degree
Oh,
of
Patty Open Water.
divers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I did again because it was a lot of time ago, and actually I didn't use it.
Right.
So I did it again, and I went to a lot of brands to create the project or get the fundings to do this or to tell this story. So that's how I put my cameras in the ocean. And when I saw that, or the feeling of shooting and get that instant with all the things that you have to think when you have all this scuba gear and the movement and the current, and you cannot take and put, like, I will like this coral here. So you don't you cannot do anything, or you cannot control the composition of the situation. You have to find it, and that's the thing that I love it. So when I go out of this, the first dive, I remember was terrible. My footage was terrible because my stability. I was very excited. So when you put air in your lungs, you go
Yeah.
up,
Start to
and
go
you
up.
you go down. So if you're excited, you're like this, and your video is like this too. So you can focus. So, but even all the result of this first experience was terrible. The feeling was so amazing that I was okay. So this is a thing that I like to do. The stories that I really like are underwater, and there are long stories. Sometimes takes me, I don't know, but I don't like the short report.
Right. Right.
I sometimes, if I have to do it and it's a work, of course I
Yeah.
can do it. But the things that I like is to take the uh, time for that story. And yeah, so this underwater photographer, painter, actually showed me my career. So his dream
Wow.
showed me my path. So it
This
was
so
amazing.
I mean this was literally just a guy on the beach painting who wanted to paint underwater that inspired you. That's
Totally.
that
And
is yeah. Go ahead.
that's amazing because he was 46 or 47 years old when I met him. And he was dreaming with that since he was 6,
Wow.
because
Wow.
He is the son of a very important fisherman in the north of Peru.
Mm-hmm.
The father already died, but he's very well known because he was a very good spear fisherman.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone knows him. So his father takes the groupers or the fishes to the house, and Pasquale, the painter, he painted.
Mm-hmm.
And his father tell him always the colors of the grouper are not is there is not like brown like you are
Right.
seeing now. When
Mm-hmm.
he's underwater is another colors.
Mm-hmm.
So he think in that moment, I want to take my colors underwater to see the colors and paint. That's the connection that he did when he was 6, and he was dreaming with that 40 years until he just say
Wow.
it to
Do,
someone here, not only here, you pay attention, really pay attention,
yeah.
and said
Do,
like this
do you still
story.
do you still do you still keep in touch with him? Do you still keep in
Yes,
contact?
actually, yes, he wants to do a Guinness record now, painting
Like,
the 10 meters canvas underwater. He wants
uh
that,
huh.
that I record that. Of course, I would love it, but
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
now
That.
he needs to get the fundings now.
Well, so
Yeah.
that's what I
That.
was going to ask. You mentioned at the beginning you went and got the funding for it to do that, but this is your first time doing it. How where did you find the funding, and then also like how did you know how much everything was going to cost since it was your first time?
Well, very good questions. First, well, actually, was not the first one because the first project where I need to get the fundings was Antarctica, and because I did this
Oh,
exhibition in
right,
the museums,
right.
so for those I get this training of how to get, and actually it's like you just go or write an email, not one, probably 100, and then someone one answer you, and then you just keep going. um, so I have the experience of Antarctica, but Antarctica was very, I already get the footage when I
Mm,
get to the brands. So the brands
Mhm.
was, oh, okay, this is cool, and was easier. The second part, this painter actually he didn't know how to dive. So we
you get to teach them.
start, yeah, we have to do everything since the beginning,
Mhm.
and it was crazy. I don't know how I get involved in that very big project because it cost us a lot. Like we don't have any money, but we did.
So, so in a way, it's interesting that because like you said, you initially got certified when you were 15, but you never really dove. And how long was it before you went back to do your recertification and started to really take this on as a passion? What was the time difference? Like how many years later?
I think I think was around 10 years
10
because I
years.
was 25.
Yeah. I mean,
Yes, when
that's,
I came back to the water.
I mean, that's pretty interesting because a lot of the people we interview, they get when they're really young, they start into it. But with you, it's more of a process. And do you think it's because your dad was diving and because he was commercial diving, you're like, I don't really want to dive in all that black water where I can't see anything. And you think that was what kind of that really turned you off to getting to doing the diving?
Yes, and actually, because I didn't, and because I didn't know in that times we didn't have a GoPro or something,
Right.
You're
because,
right.
and my father tried to explain me, but I actually didn't understand his work. And now,
Hmm.
if I don't know, if I have some more time or whatever in between filmmaking, I would like to do some commercial diving. I think it's amazing. It's just
Hmm.
like you have to go invest a lot of money and
Yeah.
time and
Yeah.
dedicate to that. So I don't know
Hmm.
if I want to just turn in that path, but I think it's amazing. But yeah, he tried to explain me, and what he's trying to explain was not enough for me to
Yeah.
say, okay, I want to do that. And yeah, and actually, I did my open water at 15, but I did
Mhm.
some trainings or some diving with my father.
Right. If I would imagine, yeah.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
a compressor and tanks in my house, so
Hmm.
we
Yeah.
want to,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So, so you got really inspired because of this painter you met on the beach that you're still friends with, and you took off. So, and I've seen some of your underwater stuff, and it's if you haven't had a chance, we'll post the thing, but go check out some of her Instagram stuff. She has amazing underwater
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm
video
looking at it
footage.
right now.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing stuff. Um, so as you started getting into the sort of the marine, once you got into the diving, you're doing your journalism, your videography, and there probably, I'm guessing there probably are not too many women in Peru who do underwater photography, or am I wrong about that?
Yeah, I think we are. I'm one of the first ones.
Mm-hmm.
Um, some people said like I'm kind of one of the first photographers. I know one videographer.
I'm talking, Dad. What? How long are you going to be? Oh, probably another hour. Oh, okay. 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 Sorry, my
All
dad. My
good.
dad came in.
No
Yeah, no
worries.
But
worries.
yeah, anyway, sorry. It's okay. Okay, I'm sorry. In a minute, interrupt you. Could start start again about that? I'm sorry about
Yeah,
being underwater. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. Well, about the girls underwater in Peru. Yes, I think I'm one of the first ones,
Mm-hmm.
females underwater photographers in Peru. Uh, yes, and I think that's why my career started in a because I was one of the first ones, and actually was not enough diving in Peru. The diving industry in that time was only two dive centers in all the country.
Mm.
So imagine like the family of scuba diving was very, very few people, very little. So when I start taking these pictures and sharing it, a lot of people get surprised about that. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that was something that the people start following me because I'm showing a part of Peru that they not see very often.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so now
Yeah,
there are a lot of not a lot, but we are
more,
more females
more.
underwater. Yes, and
Mm-hmm.
I did some workshops for that too, with that intention to certificate some underwater photographers
Mm-hmm.
because we need more eyes under the sea.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. At what time did you start to take more of a conservation interest in your work?
I think the conservation starts in Antarctica
Mm-hmm.
because the first time that I went there, because you can realize in that time also we didn't have enough social media. Instagram was just in the beginning. It was
Hmm.
2011. No tourism there, and was very pristine place. And so and it was the first time that I've been in a scientific expedition. So the things that they were talking around, I started learning a lot of. Okay, so this is not a report, only a report. It's an opportunity also to show the people what's happening about in climate, about the ocean, or just to know what's happening in Antarctica and the animals. Or so I think I start there, and in I start growing in conservation in every story, and also because now I think it's kind of trendy and it's good to be trendy, the conservation. So now more people is talking about that and
Hmm.
trying to tell stories around that. So, and now I try to pick that type of stories too.
Hmm.
Why? What makes you want to do those types of stories, the conservation stories? Like, what makes you want to tell those stories as a journalist?
I think because it's a kind of hope, probably. Is I'm taking a picture, and I really know that this picture is not gonna save the planet. So I need something around this picture. I need information. I need science. I need so. Um, I think this when your projects are complex, also is you learn a lot in the process, and that's a thing that I always try to pay attention in the story that I'm gonna pick. If I'm gonna what I'm gonna learn here. If I'm gonna learn a lot, it's already paid.
Mm-hmm.
So it's what I'm gonna learn here, and also what I'm gonna bring when it's published. Someone is gonna read it and think in hope, in a possibility to uh, do the things better. So that's why also I tried not to talk about bad stories, not bad stories. We can talk about sharks, and we don't have to talk about. We have a lot of. I don't know how to explain this in the right way, but you have a lot of options to talk about sharks, and one of them is all the blood, all the fishing, overfishing, and this is a very important part to tell also. But you have another ways to talk about sharks, and I think it's important to explore another ways, not only the impact things, because for example for lost shark, it's amazing to search for sharks that that most of people consider extinct, or they are, or and that's a story, and that's amazing story to talk about shark conservation, what is important. And I'm not seeing a lot of blood and bad things. I don't know. I don't want to. This
Well,
sounds
No,
bad,
it's
but I don't know
that makes
if
no.
sense
like that's important to see also that
for
type
sure,
of
for
Hmm.
pictures.
sure.
But I think that's not the only way to get closer to the people, and I think if you have more different ways to tell about the same
Yeah.
subject, sharks,
Hmm.
you can get in different ages also, or interests
Hmm.
or people.
Well, I think a thing too is that with the and you've certainly, I know that we'll talk a little more in a few minutes about the Lost Sharks program, but you really get the feel for the places just we've been to, that the communities in a lot of those places, how important food security is. And if all they're catching are certain shark species, that's about all. I mean, they don't catch anything they don't eat, and so it's a really, it seems like it's a real delicate. Well, it is. It's a real delicate balance between food security and then a conservation thing that I obviously that's part of the story, being able to capture that. Did you have much experience with that before in some of the projects you'd worked on?
About the food
But
security,
but
you
but
mean,
but
or
but yeah, but with some of the small communities where food security is an issue, and then you've got certain conservation concerns.
Well, I from Peru that we have, I think that's a problem. Like
Mm-hmm.
when we were in Indonesia, that they have a lot of big, one of the biggest, or I think the biggest shark fishing in the world, and but in Peru we have the same. And one of the things is what Dave just said is they need to eat, and they are not thinking in I'm gonna take care of the shark. I need to
Right.
eat whatever.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, so I work a lot in fishing communities.
Hmm.
Uh, I didn't did a project specifically in food security, but this I think is always related in all the projects, like in the Lost Share project, and also in not only with sharks, right? I think is the food security is also in artificial reefs, for example, that I really
Hmm.
love that subject, that you
Hmm.
can create healthy spaces, nest and hiding places for predators to get the healthy place, and then the fishes goes to the reef more near to the coast, and the fishermen can get the fishes and everyone is happy.
Right.
So I think that food security is involved in most of the ocean projects that I'm working.
Hmm. How do you feel about some of the? I know some of your exhibits, like I know the one that's been it's been some of the airports around, and some of your other exhibits that have been shown around. How do you? Well, first of all, can you talk a little bit about those, and then how do you feel about being able to like convey that message to a large number of people? Because people are always going through airports, for example.
Yeah, that was an amazing journey. Still an amazing journey. Will be 2 years in 10 airports around Latin America. We start in Colombia in El Dorado, the international airport. In when was the COP 16 was in October last year. So these screens were in the airport and was screens for 8 meters long. I didn't see it. That's a thing that I really want to see it. And now I'm living in Mexico, and I know one of the next screens will be in Mexico. So I hope I can see it. I can fly just to see my work. But a lot of people who went to the COP and went to Colombia sent me the pictures, and was amazing because it also connect me with people. A friend from high school that I didn't see her for a very long time sent me. I just see like I saw your work in the airport and sent me a picture and was like, that's amazing. I
That
think
is
that
amazing.
yeah, that things are very like full, or feel your soul and your heart, right? Like
For
when
sure.
your work is in public places is very cool too.
How did you get the connection there to be able to do that? The airport exhibits. How did that? Because that was pretty impressive. Like how did you get that kind of
I sent an
connection?
email.
You sent an
Just
email.
ask. She asked
Of
you.
Just
course you did. You
ask.
just ask. You just
Yes,
ask.
yes. I literally saw it on Instagram. I said I really like it, and I think my work can work very good here. And I sent an email, and they said yes. And actually, it was super cool because was a like a no paid situation. How do you
Mm-hmm.
say, like a
Yep. Yeah,
Hmm.
you did it for free.
interchange? So, and they do it like all the 3D things for free and give me the screens for free, and I bring my work for free. But then, like NGO was interested in feature the logo there,
Yeah.
and so that things that you never, if you think that you have to pay it or get the funding, maybe that's not the way. That's the
Right.
longest way.
Yeah.
Maybe I didn't know that. Probably if I knew that, that's the thing that maybe scares you too,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
As a dreamer or whatever, like you have that dream and they tell you, yeah, but this is cost almost
Yeah.
$500,000, and you said, okay,
Yeah.
no, I'm not gonna send the email, but please send it.
Yeah. You just never know.
You never
Yeah.
know. Yes, exactly. And they were amazing and they want to do more things and they want to put sharks. Also, I want to also start working with more underwater things for them. That the footage are showing it is from Antarctica. So I'm
Okay.
trying to bring Antarctica to Latin America because we are very near. We do a lot
Yeah.
of science there, and in our region is not well known the polar science.
Yeah. 'Cause
So
you did
yeah,
now
and
last year.
being in a
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, it's just like being in a public place or an airport give you the possibility that the people don't go to see it. It's just like they are doing something and the art is going to you, right? Like so you don't have
Yeah.
to go to a museum or a specific place. It's just you are walking and the information is just pass you, and if you are paying attention, you get it.
Oh, yeah. Now you spent last year. You did like what, a 3-month cruise to Antarctica. That was your second trip last year, and you were
Yes.
working doing stuff for the Peruvian Navy. Was it?
Yes, that the first expedition was with the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and I stayed 3 months in the scientific station. The name is Machu Picchu, and
Cool.
the 10 years after, I went with the vessel, the oceanography vessel from the Navy, that is all implement for science, and I stay on board for the 90 days or 3 months there.
Wow.
Wow.
Was a
What an
lot
opportunity.
to be
That,
in a
Yeah.
boat.
That's a long
You know,
time.
it's a lot of time. It was amazing, but
Yeah.
very challenging in some parts too.
yeah.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, 3 months, that's a long time. That's a
Yeah,
long
Yeah.
time.
and not good
Yeah.
connection. Uh,
Right.
I don't know
Yeah.
how I did it the first time, because
Oh, you
this
did it
second
twice.
yes, the first time was in 2011,
Right.
3 months in the on land in the Machu Picchu station,
Oh,
and
yeah. Okay.
10 years after was on the vessel, on the oceanographic vessel, 3 months. So the first time was no internet. Of course, we don't have anything. I have to bring a USB to the Poland station, the Disartowski, and so every time that something happened, like we need something from Poland that is a near station, well, in Brazil. So I sent the USB to the communication guy, and the communication guy sent it to an email, and he called me by radio and tell me, I already sent your email to the newspaper in Peru. So I said, okay, thank you. So that was all, and 10 years after, I couldn't send an email, and I get stressed, and we didn't have good internet in some points, but we have. So was different things. Also, I have a room for myself in this expedition. That is a luxury. Is the best things that you can have in Antarctica, or in a place for working for 3 months with 100 people. So your
Yeah.
private place is gold.
Okay.
And in the first time, 10 years ago, I went and I shared room we only went like 3 girls, so we were in the one room.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But also now there are more girls, so in the station they share is one bathroom for all the girls and one bathroom for all the boys.
Okay.
It's kind of a mess. And so so when went there and I saw that. I was like, how I did that? I was young.
Yeah, well, that's it. You were young.
Yes,
That's how you did it.
yes.
Yeah.
So, so another project you've been working on. This was with National Geographic on whale sharks on Peru.
Yes, it's
Is it?
not with National Geographic, but the
Oh,
director of the film, she's a
yeah.
Nat Geo explorer.
Okay.
Uh, yeah,
Yeah.
so
So
but it's not now funding
it's not a
for
National
Nat
Geographic.
Geo.
Okay.
No, now
What?
we won Sundance funding.
Sundance funding.
Yes, Sandbox is the name of the
Oh,
funding from
Sandbox. Okay.
Sundance.
Yeah.
And then we won a co-production now with the Canarias government in Spain. So we
Okay.
have now some fundings. But
Yeah.
yeah, that project is amazing because we start 4 years ago
Mm-hmm.
we are already 3 years recording in Peru.
Mm-hmm.
At the north of Peru, we have whale sharks, aggregation
Cool.
of whale sharks.
Mm-hmm.
And this story is about, tell
No,
me.
go ahead. No, go ahead. Set the story up for everybody. What's your this project?
Yeah, the story is about a fisher engineer. How do you say ingeniera pesquera? Engineer for fishing engineer. Yes,
Fishing.
Yeah, you
it's
can say that.
Yeah.
it's an
Fishing.
engineer but for fisheries.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well,
Yeah. Yeah.
well, she's a scientist. It's not marine biologist. She's
Mm-hmm.
a ingeniera pesquera,
Mm-hmm.
and she worked with whale sharks at the north of Peru. And a kid started helping her to do her research. So now this kid is already 14 years old. We start recording when he was 11, and he started going to swim with the whale sharks and help Alejandra. And he started growing in this filming. And also we as a team, as a documentary team, also we start growing because we start with no fundings and then we start like growing. Also our cameras are growing.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing that the director also is trying to show in her film is the progress that this kid do in the same that the image start progress or being different. Uh, so we went already 3 years. We go every year 1 month in November to Peru, to the north of Peru, and we stay in a house and go every time to see the whale sharks. Last year we tag. Well, we no, I'm not. I didn't tag any, but they tag
You filmed them
6 whale
tagging.
sharks. Yes, I filmed the tagging. And film the tagging is very is fast. I was impressed when you didn't know, I think, when you are in the action, but then when I download my information, my clips were 1 minute, 1 minute
Oh,
20, and since I was in the boat. So it's the boat, my legs, my fins, everything, the jump, the swimming to get the shark, to tag it, and then come back. Everything is
all
one
within a
minute.
minute.
I was like,
Wow.
wow, this is so fast.
Mm.
So you have to pay attention, like be 100% focused. It's a lot of adrenaline, and in Peru we don't have the visibility like on other countries. So you see the whale shark when it's already here,
Mm.
very close. So actually, in places like here in Mexico, for example, when I saw the whale sharks, you see all the animal, all the whale shark. Like most of the people think that they are gonna see it, like in Philippines or in Baja, in La Paz, you can see that. Or even I think in Puerto Lopez, Ecuador, you can see the whale shark.
Except
Yeah.
when we were there,
But
but except when we were
yeah,
there.
exactly. And that's a thing that I want to tell also, because when you are really looking for something, sometimes and most of the time, it's gonna be elusive, very difficult to get it.
Yep.
And that happened to us this year. Actually, this is our third year going to the whale sharks. Last year we took six, was very good for footage, but we don't have the complete animal. So because last year was El Nino and brings a lot of food, so that's a lot of sediment and is in between you and the shark is a lot of food.
Right.
So it's very in Peru is very productive in food. So there's a lot of sediment in between you and the animal. So now with La Nina, we have the option. The cold water is more clear and we don't have that much food in between. So we want the proper footage of the whale shark.
Yeah.
Because also the film is Ever and the Sharks. And we don't have a shark, complete shark. And we already are 3 years filming. So this year we went 1 month to the water, to the ocean, and we don't see any shark,
Unreal.
not one, not
Not
even
one.
one, not even
Oh,
one. It was
so-
crazy.
That is
and
crazy.
and yeah, that's happened. You never know. Like last year was good, but the visibility was not the best. But we have a lot of sharks, but part of sharks, right? Like
Yeah.
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 and we are. But the thing is, in these years, this kid also grew up and he starts being or thinking in being a marine biologist, but now he's living, or his family is very poor. He's living in a fishing village in the north of Peru in very poor conditions. So now they are paying him to go to the boat to fish for more like a industrial fishing,
Yeah.
and he's going because he needs the money and her mother needs the money. And so the reality now is getting or being more present, that
Right.
because now he's almost 15 and he needs to or go to the sea and get the cash for the day, or go to the university and get a plan, but he don't have the resource for that and how he's gonna get it. So his this dream is very far now. So that's a thing that we don't know what's gonna happen because it's a documentary. For the director also sometimes it's very difficult because sometimes she wants have an idea and then everything turns to the other idea, to the opposite. You never know. But I'm very grateful to be in this process because also I learned a lot how to do cinema in Latin America. It's very different, and it's very different to do cine than a series or a documentary, a short documentary, or this is a
Yeah.
long one. So it's the creative process, that what you start thinking was the story at the beginning now change, so your camera maybe change, so everything
Yeah.
and you have to be open for that and be flexible in that creativity. So I think I really like that, and I'm done
Yeah.
the water camera in that
Yeah. How,
movie.
how many more? How many more?
Nice.
How many more years, seasons do you think you'll film on this project?
Well, the director said that this was the last year, but we didn't
Oh,
get any sharks, so we need
oh,
Oh,
one
so
more
you'll do at
at
least one
least.
more.
at least one
Yes,
more year.
but
Okay. Okay.
at least
And
one.
to finish up, sorry. So let's talk a little bit about this project you and I have been working on, with the It's titled. It's a Save Our Seas funded. It was a Keystone grant project to highlight these lost sharks that I look around for, and the project title is "Searching for Lost Sharks, Extinct or Alive." And Denise has been filming the episodes, or actually our expeditions really, and then we're turning them into episodes. This is now just our first episode has just come out on YouTube last week. I have a YouTube channel set up, and we're going to be dropping out, try to get about another new episode about every month now for the next several months. And our first trip that Denise and I did was to Ecuador and Peru, which was her own backyard essentially. And we went looking for a shark known as a sharp fin hound shark, and the species hasn't been seen since 1961. And well, Denise, what do you think so far on the project?
Well, the first time that Adriana, that is a colleague from, well, Dave colleague,
Let me say, she's been on Adriana Gonzalez Pestana. She's been on the podcast here. So if you go back, look at some early podcasts. So anyway, so she's been on here.
Yes, she's. So she tell me about Dave, that he's on the way to Peru, and he needs a camera woman. And I ask, okay, so he's a shark expert, what he's doing and what are he's gonna look for. And she said he's looking for Atriachis acutipina. This is a shark from Ecuador. Nobody see that shark for 60 years, and he's gonna came to look for it. And I was like, what? Why he's looking for something that, like, 60 years nobody sees? And and also he needs to really like found it, like, because it's for me in that moment was, of course he's not gonna find it. But in the process we didn't find it. Well, but the important thing is the journey, the awareness around the importance of these species that nobody knows that exist, the things that you discover in between your searching, right? Or the fun, you found something, but in between there are a lot of things that you learn. And so because of the story that for me was amazing since the beginning, like, I think I really like the story that you really don't understand, or is super impressive, like you said, like, it's not gonna do it, like the underwater painter, right? Like, he's not gonna do it.
It's such a unique situation.
Exactly.
It's so unique.
It's so unique. So it's like, I'm all in. So I want to tell this story. This is, I think, one of my favorite stories. So I really wait the time of the year of to going to report or to be the camera woman of Dave, because his projects are amazing. I learn a lot. He have also a lot of experience to share. He's super cool to travel. So for all, I like the story in my calendar for the year, like November for whale sharks in Peru, and July, August for some place in the world that they want to go to search.
Well,
yes.
Well, based on our experience with whale sharks, we're about doing the same, whether we're looking for sharp fin hound sharks or whale sharks, because the first place it turned out we went to, the next two stories that come out are referred to as Ecuador's lost shark. The only place this shark is known from is off Isla de Plata, off Puerto Lopez in Ecuador. And of course, that turned out to be the largest known aggregation of manta rays, oceanic manta rays in the world's at this spot, and whale sharks there. And so, of course, Denise and I and Adriana Savalos and Adriana Pistana went out there, and we didn't see any manta rays, no whale sharks, and of course, we didn't find any shark fins. We didn't see anything, any sharks really, but it was a fun journey, despite not seeing everything. And not seeing any sharks really. And I was excited. Thought, well, at least we'll see a lot of manta rays and maybe some whale sharks, which would be really cool. And of course, the manta rays we found out showed up about a week after we left, and the whale sharks showed up about a week after we left. And so that's typically how, as Denise said on her other project, if you go looking for something, you're never going to find it. It's just, you have to be looking for something else.
Yeah.
But
yeah, you have to start saying like that, right? Like,
Yeah.
today
Here to see something else.
I'm gonna record something.
Right. Well,
Not look for something.
I always tell, I've done this for years because I've been doing this my whole career, is I just tell people, like, I never want to say what I'm going to look for because I know I won't find it. So I'll just say, I'm going to go to the fish market and I'll see what I find there. And that's when I'll find stuff. If I say, like, I'm going to go look for this one shark or ray, there's no way I'll find it. But if I'm just going to go to the fish market, then I'll find some really cool stuff. But the point of the series, and just so everyone knows, like, Denise has been filming it, Andrew's been doing the editing, and we've been putting Andrew in. So it's been a learning experience for, like, especially for Andrew and I. Denise came experienced in the photography, but for me, it's been a bit as a passion project, kind of telling the story about these sharks that nobody's known about. In fact, we were working with Guy Stevens and the Manta Trust and Jazz Cobert and Michelle Guerrero from the Ecuador Manta Project. And they'd never, and particularly Michelle, who's Ecuadorian, had never even heard of this shark before. And that's what we found with most of the Ecuadorians, except for the older ones, the older fishermen we met. They knew what this shark was, but it was the same story. And in that they would say, like, we haven't seen this shark in 35 or 40 years. And so, but the younger people, like Denise's age, and they, pretty much anybody under, 50, 60 years of age, they had no idea they didn't even know the shark was there. So the big project that we've really, that we're highlighting is that all of these sharks, I don't say all of them, but there are sharks and rays that are disappearing and nobody's paying any attention to. They'll look for whale sharks, they'll look for white sharks or tiger sharks. And so we're trying to kind of spread the word here with Denise's photography and Andrew doing the editing and trying to tell this story to really raise awareness for this. And Save Our Seas has been amazing as far as being able to support this project. And we're going into our third year now. We've had some pretty amazing experiences. Wouldn't you agree, Denise?
Totally, yes. As I said, this is one of the stories that I really like to cover and report. Also, it's amazing. I learn a lot. I think Dave. I think, of course, you learn too because sometimes I think that you already know everything, but I'm sure, like, you already
no, trust me,
still learning. But also is very tough too in some parts. Is for me, they have more experience with that. But for me, went to the very big fish markets with all the sharks and see all these hundreds of sharks, or the baby tiger sharks that they are super cute, or the last time that we were in Indonesia, in this island that the I think was the Minister of Fisheries, right? That they bring you a lot of sharks and rays to do a workshop and the identification. For me, was super impressive. Like, it's something like with I get when I went to the hotel at the end of every day, I was with the energy like this, like very low. Like, it's I usually do the fun part, like underwater and all the things like sharks are alive,
Yeah.
and the colors and the corals,
Yeah.
and then go to see all this blood part with the, for me was the most impressive in Ecuador. We saw it a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and but I think Ecuador and Peru were more about the feeling of the mafia thing,
Yes.
right? Like we were afraid of that, or I was concerned about that. In the Indonesia, Timor, we don't feel that, but
Right.
the
Ju-
energy was, I don't know. We saw so many species, or so many
Some
beautiful things that
some of the,
was.
yeah, some of the things, and we'll touch on this in some of the episodes to come. Things that people don't think about, like when you go to look for sharks, like when we're in Ecuador and northern Peru, we'd go to fish markets, we'd have mafia people to deal with or drug cartels, and we literally had to flee a few paces because we were told to leave or we're going to be killed. And so, like, those are the things you don't think about, except when you're
Yeah.
out there like filming something. And like, I know that one day we're in Ecuador, and I was filming some stuff, and suddenly Denise grabs my arm and just says, "We need to leave now." And I didn't have to ask her why, because I knew exactly why we had to leave. And so you run into those. Those are things you don't think about in some of these areas. And it was pretty intense the few weeks we were in, both in Ecuador and in northern Peru, because everywhere we went to all the fish markets and everything, you had that always had that undercurrent of like the mafia running the place,
Yeah.
or you had. I mean, we were going to try to hold some identification workshops, and one of our colleagues in Adriana in Ecuador just said, "Well, you can have one, but nobody's going to show up because they're all going to afraid they're going to be killed." And so we had to
Right.
cancel having the workshop because, well, I can understand nobody. I don't want to get killed. Denise didn't want to,
Yeah.
so we didn't
No.
have that. We went to other places. We were in one of the other stories will tell. We had an amazing trip to Timor Leste, East Timor. Denise and I did, and there was really peaceful and everything, except you had this issue with crocodiles everywhere. And
Yes,
small issue. Just a
you
tiny
yes,
walk
issue.
over. You'd walk over to go take a picture, or the one day Denise went over to take some filming of like some pretty little lagoon, and one of our colleagues there, who's Timorese, starts going, "No, run, get away!" Because there's somebody had just been killed by a crocodile a few days earlier in the same pretty little lagoon there. So yeah, it was
yes,
it was the things you don't think about when everybody's worried about,
Yeah.
like, well, how do you feel working about sharks? And the sharks are nothing. It's all the other things you have to worry about besides the sharks. But the Timor story will be a good one. We'll tell about that
Yeah.
story. Some places, that was a place. That was a big exploration for Denise and I and the others on the group, Julia and Adriana, because nobody's ever looked at sharks there. So
Right.
that was another really good episode. It'll be a good episode coming up in the future. We spent quite a bit of time traveling through Indonesia with Naya Simone, and just went to some places and found. I mean, she's a film person. She's seen sharks and rays that very few people have ever seen that study
Mm.
sharks and rays out there. So
Special spot.
uh,
Special spot.
yeah, she was really fortunate to see some things that most people never. Some of the ones I'd never seen before. In fact, a number of the ones I'd never seen before. So um, it's been a pretty amazing expedition the last couple of years, and we're not going to tell you now, but we got some really exciting news. We'll tell you later this year on our next journey that we're going to be doing on this project here. But part of the project, besides telling the stories, we're also doing workshops. As Denise mentioned, I ran a couple workshops in Indonesia with CITES inspectors to try to help train them on what to look for in terms of species. And it's been kind of a multifaceted project. The documentary part is just one small part of the broader project,
Hmm.
and hopefully this will lead to inspire some more projects that we'll be able to share coming up. And
Absolutely.
so hopefully, Denise, you're all ready for the next adventure to come up on the project.
yes. Of course, super ready. Actually,
Yeah.
something that I would like to say
Sure.
that get me very excited when I'm traveling with Dave is when he said also that I saw some sharks that a lot of people didn't see it in
Right.
real life, and I'm very grateful for that, because when he told me, let's go to a basement of, I think the basement or another room to this room is amazing, because the basement of the California Academy of Science
Yeah.
is amazing.
Oh, it's
Like
gorgeous.
nobody
Yeah.
goes to the basement. So to
Yeah.
have the opportunity to get into a place that
Yeah.
nobody goes, and it's only for scientists, researchers, and to see all this ichthyology collection that is one of the biggest in the world is amazing. And he took this Triachis acutipini, that is the shark that we were looking for in, or they was looking for with the scientists in Ecuador and Peru. And actually, the scientists that were looking for it, they never saw it in real, like
Hmm.
me.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
were looking for in Peru and Ecuador, like Adriana and all the
Yep.
experts, and they saw it. There are only two specimens in the world.
Yeah.
Yep.
One's in the basement of the Science Academy, and the other in the Smithsonian.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I saw one of them. So
Yeah.
Yep.
when you get that things, it's like you already learn a lot just in that moment and in that emotion, right? Like to discover something or to see that
Mm-hmm.
this is special. And in the other room was the in Indonesia, in this FAMI
Oh,
laboratory.
Fami
Is an
in
expert.
yep,
It's an
the Indonesian expert Fami. Yep. Yep. One of their top
it's a
fish.
shark
He's our top shark guy. Yep.
expert,
Yep.
that he have a room with coolers and the most amazing sharks in the world, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like these little things, like black things, or black sharks, or the cookie shark that I never saw it in
Cookie cutter.
life, like
Yeah.
cookie
Yeah.
cutter, that is amazing. And also, I when I'm recording, sometimes I don't, you are not very into the reality of what you are doing, but
Hmm.
sometimes the emotion, you know that you are in emotion in a special moment, but
Hmm.
everything go fast and you have to focus on the things and what they are doing. But sometimes they smile more than other times. So when he saw it, the river shark, for example,
Oh.
in that place in the lab, I knew that was a special. This is more special than the special moment. This is
Yeah.
the special part of the special moment. So I
Yeah.
pay more attention, and he's
Hmm.
like, "This is so cool," and he's like, "This is so cool because of this," and all the others scientists are very like excited to. Oh, he bring a jar with things and tell him, "We don't know what is this. Can you
Hmm.
Can you
Yeah.
identify it?
help us?" So
Yeah.
you know that this came for a deep sea fisheries, is
Hmm.
Yep.
species that nobody knows what is it. So
Right.
probably there are a lot of new things for science in that jar. So
Hmm.
have the possibility to see two scientists open a jar that nobody knows what
Yeah.
is inside, and taking
For
out
sure.
the sharks and baby things. Well, probably it's
Right.
not babies, but for me are babies because we're small.
Yeah.
But it's amazing. I think
Right.
it's very cool to be part of that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Well,
Absolutely. That's what,
there was definitely, well, this will be in one of the Indonesian shows where we pulled out, Fami had collected a whole bunch of these deep sea dogfish and cat sharks, and we pulled them out, and it was the first time we'd looked at them, and there was some really interesting stuff there. I won't give away what we found, but you have to watch the episode when it comes out later this year. But we found some stuff, and Denise is, as she said, she's been very fortunate. She's seen things that most people have never seen. I waited a long time for the river sharks most of my career to actually have a chance to go out and see them in the wild. You know, and here's Denise is just a kid. She's already got to see them and tag them. And for me, it was a very, that episode is that was a very emotional episode for me, because as a grad student, we thought the river sharks had gone extinct. And so now I actually got to go out and handle some in the field. We found some in Fami's lab. That's going to be a very good story to tell.
40 years
about
later
that.
too. Yeah.
Yeah. 40 years later for me, and say Denise, the kid here, got a chance to see him up close, and very few people, that's another one, very few people outside Australia there have really ever seen those things. So it's a real rarity. She's been kind of had a really good seat to see a lot. Has seen a lot more than a lot of shark experts have. So, so anyways, that's been really, and it's been fun just traveling together and having some adventures and everything. Yeah, I hope people, definitely tune in, catch this series. It's be on YouTube, and we'll post the links there to catch. And Denise, it's been really good. We're definitely going to have you back on and talk about some more of our adventures. And, what advice before we leave, what advice would you have for a young person starting out, that wants to pursue, say, a journalism film career? What advice would you have for them?
Well, I think for young people, probably like just to follow their intuition. If they think is something there that will bring you joy to your life, so maybe you can follow that path. And and just, well, to send the mail, right? I think that's the other thing. Just send the mail, or just ask. Because sometimes if you ask, sometimes they tell you yes. And so that's an important thing. And now we have internet. You don't have to move from your seat or your bed or whatever you want to send the email. You can be in the comfortable place in your house and send a lot of emails, and sometimes something happen. I think I always said, like, I tiro la moneda, like how do you say when you do like a coin with a coin and you make
flip a coin.
A wish?
Flip a coin.
Like
Make a wish?
Like, and make a wish. Yeah. So I think I always like said, like, I'm going to put coins here. Like, I want these. So just put a lot of coins and make a lot of wishes, and be responsible of that or get in charge to whatever you are dreaming of. Follow your intuition.
Awesome. Great. Well, Denise, thanks so much for coming on the show. Catch the series on YouTube, and we'll definitely be coming back and having some more talk later on. Okay. Thanks again, Denise.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you, Denise, for joining us on today's episode of the Beyond Jaws podcast. It was great to have you on, Dave. What a wonderful story that she had, like just going through and getting experience. I love the story about the underwater painter. Who knew that you could paint underwater? I mean, that's an incredible story just in itself.
Something I talk about once in a while when I give public talks about how sometimes you meet somebody on your journey you never expect to meet. And Denise was probably one of the best stories we've heard in that thing. She basically met a painter on the beach who inspired her, and that's where her career in terms of diving, filming underwater, becoming one of Peru's first underwater camera women, really. Real pioneer in that way. And it was really from a painter she met on the beach who talked about underwater. And that was that was an amazing story she told. In fact, I didn't even know, of the time I spent with her, knowing a little bit about her background, I didn't know that that's what was really her inspiration. And she was, she was in her mid-20s when that happened there, and as I mentioned earlier, this was a process for her. She didn't just decide as a kid that I'm going to go do this. She went through this whole process. I thought it was interesting. She talked about it, her first 3 years as a journalist after college. She was a crime journalist reporting on crime stories. That
could weigh a lot on you after a while. Just all you're doing is talking about crime, reporting crime.
Especially when you're a young person just starting out, you're thinking like, God. Yeah, and then she just went in this whole area, getting into conservation. That trip, her first trip to Antarctica, I think, really inspired her. She didn't really know what she was doing. She just went to Antarctica, and it turned into an amazing thing. And then as she kind of continued on her journalism, she started watching what the photographers were doing.
Yeah.
I guess initially at the crime scenes, they were taking pictures of the crime scenes she was reporting on, and then she saw them doing wildlife conservation stuff, and then one thing slowly led to another, and then she ended up
Yeah.
going back and doing a refresher course in diving, and just found her passion. As I thought it was just a
Yeah.
really touching story that she told on
Oh,
how
I
she on
agree.
her
I
journey.
agree.
Yeah,
No, it was
yeah,
phenomenal. And it still continues to be phenomenal with you working with her. I think
mm-hmm.
it's, just finding her through Adriana, and then you went on to another project, across the world with her. And
Mm-hmm.
obviously she's really easygoing, really easy to work with. And same with you. And so it's like, it's when you find somebody like that, where you can work really well together in sometimes extreme environments, where you're in
Yep,
dangerous environments and stuff. You can trust each other. You can like make sure you look out for each other. And I think that's really important. And it shows in her work, as somebody who's seen
yeah,
her work, a lot, because I'm working with it, doing the editing.
yeah,
She's really great. She loves the story. That's what it's not. She's not just a videographer. She's a journalist, and she loves
yep,
telling the stories, and she loves guiding us with the story. And I think it's phenomenal, and she's done a great job, and
yep.
she'll continue to do a wonderful job. So I
Oh
think that'll
yeah,
be great.
yeah. Oh yeah, no, she's really good, and I think it kind of helps me out because she's really good about doing social media along the way, which helped out a lot.
She was
And
good. Yeah.
yeah, and then sometime later on, we'll have on her and maybe a couple of people to talk about. We touched on a little bit about some of the things you encounter. We talked about particularly in Ecuador and Peru, dealing with the mafia
Yeah.
in these places
Yeah.
here, and it's just things you don't think about when you're a young
So
person starting out.
dangerous.
Like, I'm going to go start. I mean, it's we laugh a little
Yeah. You have to
about
be
it, but
careful.
at the time, and again, we were in touch with you, Andrew, so you kind of knew at the time in real
Yeah, you
time.
guys were concerned. You were
Yeah, we were
concerned.
kind
There
of
was a
concerned.
general concern.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's definitely concern. So anyway, but that's the stuff people don't often think about. But Denise has
Yeah.
been a trooper in the whole thing, and yeah, so we'll have her back on to talk about some of the other future episodes we have on the thing, and kind of give her experience from filming from behind the camera, because you don't really going to see her too much in front of the camera because she's doing all the filming. Um,
Right.
so
Exactly.
anyway, yeah. So
Yeah.
anyway, but
No,
so it's good. Yeah, it was a good
yeah, it was
episode, and
crazy. Well,
yeah,
great
yeah.
episode, and looking forward to seeing more from her and hearing more from her, and obviously seeing her videos, and diving into the Australian data and the East Timor data, and Indonesia, and all sorts of places that you
Yep.
guys went to. So I'm looking forward to that. Now, by the time this is published, the first episode of The Lost Sharks will be out. So
Yep.
check that out. Go to YouTube. I'll put it in the link so you guys can check it out. Let us know how you feel. Put the comments in on the YouTube channel. We'd love to hear how you feel, and tell other people what you love about it, and so forth. So check that out. I'm going to put the links to Denise's website as well as Instagram page, so that you can check out her work
Yeah.
in case you ever need a videographer. And Dave, if people want to get a hold of you, how do they do so?
Usually Instagram is probably the best way. Just follow me there. I'm also on Facebook and X and on LinkedIn, but probably Instagram would be the best place to follow me on.
Perfect. And then for us, it's Beyond Jaws Pod, and go to our YouTube channel, subscribe,
Yes.
and I'll put the link. So just to let you guys know that the Lost Sharks video is going out on Dave's YouTube channel, not the Beyond Jaws Pod. So we'll link to that specifically. So don't just go thinking that you're going to see it at the Beyond Jaws podcast page. So
Yeah.
go to the Lost Sharks guys page. So I'll
Yep.
put that in the show notes as well. But thanks, Dave, very much, and thank you, Denise. We really appreciate you coming on. Looking forward to having you back on. And for all of you out there, thank you for listening. We love having you on this podcast, and having you listen. And your comments are always welcome, and feedback is always welcome. So thank you very much for that. And this has been another episode of the Beyond Jaws podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. From Dave and I, we really appreciate you. Have a great day. We'll talk to you next time, and happy conservation.